Are you all happy for me to sign the minutes from the last council meeting? That's a yes. Any apologies, please?
Just two. Councillors Corrie and Ray.
Thank you. Any declarations of interest? No? So we move on to public question time. Do we have Sharon Alcon here? No. So she will be given a written reply. Comments? Yes?
Thank you very much. My question is to August. Over the past few months, I've asked you about the possibilities of moving forward with the curbside collection of glass and food waste. Are you any nearer to being able to collect these items without weekly collections?
Good evening, Clive. Again, yes. Thank you for the question. The issue of glass and food waste collection has been discussed at great length both here at Wokingham and at RE3, the waste contractor for Wokingham, Reading and Bracknell. And these matters are under constant review. At present, we're experiencing very low levels of glass in the residual waste stream, and our glass banks are very successful. In this regard, we're confident that the overwhelming majority of glass is recovered for recycling and being sorted by colour. This commands a higher price. To introduce a curbside glass collection would be expensive and could only marginally increase our glass recycling tonnage. Thus, glass from curbside can only be processed as mixed glass and therefore goes for aggregate rather than recycled. Food waste collection has been considered and remains under review. As we've maintained weekly collections, the matter of nuisance from food waste, insect and smell is better than those areas we've moved to alternate week collections. A food waste collection service would require a separate container provided to each household and a number of purpose-built or adapted vehicles. Added to this, RE3 do not currently have arrangements in place to dispose of this type of waste. We encourage home composting, and residents can purchase equipment which will enable them to process food waste at home at subsidised rates. This is better for the environment and also produces useful gardening soil improvers and plant feed. In summary, these issues do remain under review, but at present position that we have no immediate plans to collect either glass or food waste from the curbside. Thank you.
Do you have a supplement, Mr. Jones?
Yes, please. Thank you very much. I'm sure that you're not surprised that I've come back to ask about it again. Over the past few weeks, I've spoken to lots of people, had lots of returns and surveys, and 90% of the people really would like to have some more recycling. So if there is something that you can do over the next 6 months to a year, it would be greatly appreciated by lots of people within the borough, and it would be a very popular move.
Thank you very much. If you wish to stay, Mr. Jones, you're very welcome to do so. If you'd like to go out in the gallery.
So maybe I can hear the reply.
So there was a question there.
I will interpret it as a question, if you like, Madam Mayor, to say that yes, we do keep it under review. There are a number of factors here. One, of course, is the current contract we have for waste collection, and maybe at the end of that. The other is the different the uses that the recycling, even if we collected its recycling, could be placed. People are frustrated. They have a yogurt pot. It says it's recyclable, but there's no market for recycling. And lastly, you have to look, obviously, at the cost of such things against the other priorities this council has.
Do you have any questions? No? So I am moving on to Mayor's announcement, and I am pleased to tell you that on the 2nd of May, I am having a ball on behalf of my charity, Building for the Future, in Kilsland. I should be very grateful for the support of all of you to attend this ball, and Anna will be sending out letters of invitation. So come up, please, then. Yes, Councillor Stanton, he's already offered to come. Thank you very much. Anybody else?
I was just asking for the date, I didn't hear the date.
No, you can beat it now.
I've got my diary out.
2nd of May. 2nd of May. It's a Friday.
Thank you.
Agenda item 88, Councillor Pauline Jacobson, please. Councillor Pauline Jacobson.
Sorry?
Agenda item 88.
Sorry about that. I was just clarifying an item on the agenda, item 88, with Keith before I started. I think there might be a typo in it. But, sorry, I'd like to propose the adoption of the paper to review the polling districts and polling places, and note that there's just one change, which is to use Swallowfield, the Victory Hall, rather than the Farley Hill Primary School, now that the Victory Hall is in a much better state.
Do you have a second there? Do you wish to speak?
No, Mayor, I'm very happy to second this unless anybody else wants to debate our poll, but I do not need or wish to speak on the matter.
Thank you very much. All those in favour of the recommendation, please show. And against? It's carried. Agenda item 89, Councillor Norman Robinson, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to present the report in your agenda. This report contains a summary of the work of each of the overview and scrutiny committees. Early in 2013, we looked at the committees and moved to the structure that's now in place. The Overview and Scrutiny Management Committee now focuses on ensuring that the overview and scrutiny activities are supporting the Council's priorities and in shaping the types of reviews being carried out. Most overview and scrutiny activity undertaken recently falls within two of the Council's priorities, namely improving the customer experience when accessing Council services and improving educational attainment and the focus on every child achieving their potential. We will shortly be seeking suggestions for review topics for the coming year, and will center our activity partly around that. And it would be quite nice to have a bit more focus on some of the other council priorities during that time. So I therefore propose that this report is noted. Thank you.
Do you have a second there? Councillor Gallagher, do you wish to speak?
Just very briefly, Madam Mayor, just really to add on Councillor Alderson's summing up, I'd like to thank the Chairman, fellow members of the committees and democratic officers for being there and giving us all the support we need to actually work during the year. Thank you.
Thank you. All those in favour, please. Any against? Agenda item 90, Councillor Lee, please.
Sorry, Madam Mayor. I'd like to contribute to the work of the Health and Wellbeing Board, which you will find on page 61 of your agenda. And I'd like to thank everyone who's worked to bring this work to fruition over the past 12 months. Just to let you know, the Health and Wellbeing Board is a statutory board set up under the Health and Social Care Act 2012. And one of its main objectives is to actually improve the joint working between NHS and social services, and also to promote good health and well-being amongst our residents. The board's main means of achieving its objectives is to challenge all those organisations involved to work better together to achieve the common outcome. And one of the advantages we have with this current system is that we have the CCGs, the clinical commissioning group, sitting around the table with us. That's the doctors in the area. So we can really actually get better working going on. In the past, they were distant. They were behind the PCT, the Primary Care Trust. And to achieve, actually, to start moving forward with our integration, we have prepared a better care family plan, and we have some £8 million to do work on that, which is all about improving this integration between the social services and the NHS. We have various items in there, such as home hospitals. We're integrating our teams, our START team, which is the teams organised by the social services to get people out of hospital back into their homes, combining that with a similar type of organisation within the NHS. So I would hope that everybody has read it. I think next year is going to be very interesting. We have maybe tried to do too many things this year, but we're going to focus our attentions down, and the Better Care Fund, I think, will see great improvement. So I hope everyone would accept this report. Thank you.
Do you have a second on this? Would you like to speak now?
Not really, Madam Mayor, other than just to say I would like to add my thanks to those of the Chairman, just to say thank you to the committee for their sterling efforts.
Thank you. All those in favour, please. Anyone against? That is carried. Agenda item 91. Councillor Patman, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to present the report of the Audit Committee for the year. I've noticed in the past a certain reluctance of members who want to get involved with audits. And I know that there are lots of figures involved and so forth, and people think it's something that we have to do because we have to do it. But I can assure you, from having been on the committee for a while, it is essential to the workings of this council and essential to the workers within the council as well, because we need to be able to reassure the public that we are doing things in the correct way. We need to be able to reassure ourselves that we're doing it in the, not necessarily the best way, but in the way that we have already told council members and officers to work to the particular plans, and what basically the audit committee is looking at all of those issues, and the report presents it very effectively. And I'm standing here as the vice chairman because Philip Murphy is now elevated to the executive, and therefore he's not able to present this. But I do feel that it is a pretty comprehensive review of what we've been doing for the year, and without an audit committee there could be some serious problems that could occur in this council. So I recommend it to you as a document that we should adopt this evening. Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Patman. Do you have a second, please?
I do indeed.
Do you wish to speak?
Yes, Madam Mayor, I would. Thank you, Madam Mayor. I would happy to second this report. The Audit Committee, following on what Barry said, is perhaps one of the most important committees in the Council, charged to ensure that there is an adequate, efficient system of internal control over the Council's operations. This year we've had an efficient and interesting year, as outlined in the report, with this being the first full municipal year of working with our external auditors, Ernst & Young, following the changes to the Audit Commission. I would like to thank all members and officers who have been involved in the Audit Committee over the last year. I also would like to give special thanks to Philip Murphy, who has now been stepped down from the Audit Committee as chairman to take over the regeneration portfolio. Philip's worked tirelessly as chairman over the last 10 years, and I would like to thank him for this. Whoever follows him as chairman has some very good shoes to fill. I'm happy to second this motion. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All those in favour, please. Anyone against? That is carried. Agenda item 92. I propose that we note the reports from members appointed to outside bodies. And I'd like a second, please.
I'd like to second that, please, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Gray?
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. Before I make my point, I would like to also welcome Michael back to the council. We're very pleased to see that he's much recovered. And also to say that we know there are some councillors who will not be here at the next council meeting because they're standing down. And to say we wish them well, particularly so who was once a member of our group, we don't hold it against him. But we do wish her well in the future. I would like to ask us to note one particular report, which is the one on page 92. Ian Pittett's report on the Mid and West Berkshire Local Access Forum. Last year, Ian reported he'd been unable to get the terms of reference to the forum, that working officers rarely attended, that he didn't discuss Wokingham issues, and he doubted it had any benefit for Wokingham, And this year, he reports the same thing, only more so. The officers from Wokingham don't attend, don't supply papers. He still hasn't been able to extract the terms of reference, and he thinks it's a complete waste of time. We need something better that would actually be of use to us in Wokingham. The report shows that Ian has been trying to achieve that, but without success. He's taken it to the Conservative group and has been told that the executive member will decide what happens about the forum and then tell the rest of us. I would like to point out that the council makes appointments to outside bodies, not executive members, but the decision on what the local access forum, what local access forum arrangements are appropriate for Wokingham should be emerging from a proper formal evidence-based process. It's not up to the whim of an executive member just to tell council what's going to happen. And it's pretty appalling that this situation has been allowed to fester for so long. So I commend Ian for trying to get something done about a dysfunctional body. I'm afraid I'm going to condemn the Conservatives for not taking any action. They're not prepared to. We are going to suggest it as a subject for a scrutiny review in the next municipal year to see what we can do to improve things. So thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. We're not going to have a debate on this, but since there were some allegations in there, I will allow a response if you would like to.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just before I make the response, may I congratulate you, Mayor. When I was in that position, I tried to start getting a better return of these reports from all members on outside bodies, and I think this is by far the most complete one we've ever had. So I do congratulate you on that. On the point raised by True Bray, it is not, I don't want to debate it, it's not exactly as she says, it is a complicated situation. I've never taken the assumption of being the member on that, but what I've been fighting for is to ensure somebody represented that body, both as a member and as an officer on all future meetings. I'm quite happy to meet her outside of this chamber to discuss it.
Thank you very much. Agenda, so all those in favour, please. William, please. Anyone against? Agenda item 93. Councillor Lee, please.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. Another council year almost over. And what have we done here? Well, we're about to complete one of our major regeneration programmes, the Station Link Road, which the Liberals tell us, and I quote, the new Station Link Road will make everyone's journey longer. We have just completed the regeneration of the new railway station, an excellent facility it is too. We're just about to complete the regeneration of Peach Place. The suggestion, by the way, from the Liberals is that we don't need shops in a regenerated Wokingham. We have approved a brand new facility for the frail elderly on the old Foster site in Woodley. When completed, this will add to the excellent modern facilities which also exist there at Alexandra Extra Care. Let me remind you that the Liberals fought against this redevelopment of Fosters, wishing only to retain the old and decrepit building for our elderly, where residents had to use communal toilets. On another point, the opposition state, in some literature, that the traffic jams are terrible, so just imagine the actual traffic generated by 3,500 houses at Arborfield. Can I remind our members sitting opposite, and particularly Steve Bacon, who I believe is one of your candidates, and the residents of Arborfield, that in the Liberal 2008 manifesto, they wanted to put all 12,000
No, we did not, and you know that's
And I will give Prue a copy of her manifesto if she has any difficulties in remembering it, because I have it here.
5,000 houses.
But let me tell you what this administration has actually done at Arborfield, and how we listen to residents and we then act on what they want. And specifically my fellow councillor Gary Cowan, who has long supported his residents against these Liberal desires to build 12,000 houses. The residents wanted two things, a bypass and a secondary school. That's exactly what they're going to get. Not only that, they were given an option A, B or C. They wanted B, and they'll have B. And don't just take my word for it that this is a great place to live. If you read the Sunday Times March 2014, the survey of best places to live, Wokingham is 17th best in the South East. The Daily Mail in October, quote, Wokingham is a paradise for dedicated parents. Wokingham named the best place to bring up a family. Daily Telegraph, in particular, it is renowned for its excellent schools. And let me finish, Madam Mayor, on the regeneration of Wokingham. The first of our town centre regenerations. Not the only one. We don't just spend money in Wokingham. We already have seen the first 3 projects: the Station Link Road, the refurbishment of Peach Place. We have listened to our residents and withdrawn the planning application to improve it. And we will be resubmitting it to bring back life to our town centre and provide new shops. What do you propose? No shops. We'll all sit at home on our computers and order, and we'll collect the orders in a dark warehouse. That sounds intriguing. I'm not quite sure what it is, but it doesn't sound very good. And despite this, we're the worst funded authority. And all the lies from the Liberals. That's what we're up against. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Fuller.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. I've got three items I want to draw to everyone's attention. As some of you know, I'm taking a good news item to Executive next week, where I'm announcing that we've sold our remaining Icelandic debt to a consortium of financiers. We've collected an average of over 96 pence in the pound, and I'm delighted to report that this exceeds the 95 pence in the pound, which I predicted we would achieve in 2008. As a result, there will now be additional resources available to support our services to our residents. I have noticed with great surprise that the opposition claimed at the last council meeting that we'd somehow foregone interest of up to £1 million, whereas the true figure is approximately 100,000. The amount bandied about by the Liberal Democrats would have required an interest rate of over 5%. During this period, we have achieved about 0.5%, which is the average of interest of AAA investments. The opposition yet again display their lack of financial acumen by their guesstimate being out of kilter with reality by about 10 times. Our budget monitoring for this year, this is another good news item. Many of you will have seen in your emails that the February budget monitoring shows that we're about 684,000 under budget. This shows the benefit of Conservative stewardship of this Council's finances. Due to recent severe weather and its impact on our road network, I am tonight announcing that we will allocate at a future executive meeting an extra £500,000 for pothole repairs, road maintenance and flood alleviation measures, in addition to any money obtained from central government. Well done. Finally, reports have reached me that this Conservative administration is being criticised by the Liberal Democrats as saving a total of £8.5 million from its revenue budget over the last 8 years, and that we have squirreled this money away unspent into reserves. I am pleased to report that we have saved £8.5 million from the Council's budget over the last 8 years. However, much as I would like to have squirreled it away, in fact this money has been used to support the Council's revenue budget in succeeding years. We have in fact spent £10.9 million on one-off special items supporting Council services, and have in fact reduced the reserves by £925,000 during this 8-year period. This shows that we are committed to providing services to our residents, and that money saved in 1 year is ploughed back into services in the next. This shows yet again that this administration maintains sound financial management, whereas the Liberal Democrats resort to wild speculation and spending.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. It's good news night tonight, isn't it? And there's good news tomorrow as well, because at the Thames Valley Forum for the Local Enterprise Partnership, affectionately known as the LEP, we will be approving for final submission to the government the bid which follows the Michael Heseltine Leave No Stone Unturned report. This is a significant development. We have bid for significant sums of money across the Thames Valley LEP area to support infrastructure, industry, and as originally outlined in Lord Heseltine's Leave No Stone Unturned report. Members will be aware the government accepted almost every recommendation in that plan, and that we should support high-tech industry, including the IT sector, to rebalance the national economy. We do, of course, have the lead in IT in Thames Valley across the whole UK, and much of it within the Wokingham. But we need to both maintain it and indeed enhance it for the future. And that is our aim. And a very good example of that is our support for the Science Park in Reading University. It will be a very competitive situation. There are 39 local enterprise boards in competition for the significant money which will be on offer for 2015. We are very confident in our bid. We have worked long and hard on that. Woking is very well represented in it, Madam Mayor, and I am very confident for the future of business in this borough. May I also add that following that exciting meeting, we'll have an even more exciting meeting when we set up the new Thames Valley Berkshire City Deal Joint Committee, which actually is the committee which will manage apprenticeships in the next 3 years going forward. This is actually designed to support apprentices. It will bring together a hub where young people will be able to get significant apprentices, advice, support, guidance, where we will cooperate with the employers of the area, the education facilities, and indeed the NEC. This will give our young people significant opportunities going forward. Apprentices are a fantastic development for young people that do not go to university. You can actually have an apprentice in a whole variety of professions, and we fully support them. And tomorrow will be the start of an exciting 3-year journey where we aim to reduce unemployment amongst young people, which is a significant problem across the country, not so much here, but we aim to reduce it by 50% in 3 years. That's a very tough target, Madam Mayor, but one we are confident we can achieve. And thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor Higham-Taylor, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This month has been an exciting time for our young people to hear about the opportunities afforded to them after leaving school. Woking Borough Council has sponsored 2 major apprenticeship and careers events, one at Majewski Stadium and the other just this week at Addington School. In total, they were attended by over 800 young students, parents and carers. These events have been a great chance for our young people to meet face-to-face with local and national businesses to find out what fantastic apprenticeships are available right now and to get a flavour of what's out there. There was also practical advice on offer on how to fill in CVs and application forms. I'd like to say a big thank you to students at Addington for baking cakes at the event there, and also to Wangel students who supported the event at Addington with a meet and greet service. They were great ambassadors for their school. This month, I also had a great pleasure of kicking off our first Wokingham Family First Conference. It was fully booked with over 200 attendees from every corner of the country, from Devon to Yorkshire, you name it. But perhaps what is most important is the reason why they wanted to come and hear about Wokingham. They came to learn about what best practice is making us one of the most successful authorities in the whole country, taking part in the Troubled Families Initiative, and what this means in terms of outcomes for our families. This year, 91% of our families taking part in this programme have significantly reduced or stopped their offending. For one family, the police were being called out to their home up to 3 times a week. Now they've just gone out to their home once in the last 6 months. 41% of our Year 2 families now have an adult who's entered employment. Imagine what a difference that would make to those families. Now pause for a moment and imagine what a difference that would make if this was happening all over Britain. Another fantastic statistic. Over 2/3 of children and young people increased their school attendance to over 85% and reduced exclusions. This is a stunning statistic when you know the stories behind some of these figures. Some of our children were not even in school at all. This success is thanks to our truly dedicated partners in health and the police, our very own local authority services and our other colleagues such as schools and the voluntary sector. The commitment and shared responsibility is owned equally by frontline workers and operational and senior managers. To date, over 1,000 practitioners from all across the borough and all of the previously mentioned disciplines have received level 3 training and are fueling our programme's success. Our next steps are running Family First into community and neighbourhood projects, working with small communities who live in one street or area. Initially, we're doing this both in Finchampstead and in Lower Earley to engage and empower residents to effect positive change in their own communities and families. We're also seeking to be selected by the Department of Community and Local Government for a pilot for the next phase of the Troubled Families project. Exciting times. Lastly, I wanted to bring everyone up to speed on where we've got to with our plans for a secondary school in the south of the borough. Over the last 3 months, we've held 3 community engagement events. They've all been well attended with over 200 parents and residents taking part. We're now starting to see a clear picture of what sort of school the community favour in terms of size, ethos, facilities, transport links and an educational offer. The South Woking Free School have also made a presentation in the last meeting, and we continue to support them. We will continue to support them over the coming months with their free school bid to the Department of Education in September. There is still further work to do, and we welcome all input from parents and residents in order to shape this new school. Please see our Facebook, Twitter and webpage, and we're confident that at this point we're on track to deliver a new school in the South, certainly in September 2016.
Councillor Baker, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just want to bring people up to date on the 5 new major road schemes that we're going to have been working on over the next 10 years. My colleague here has already mentioned the Station Link Road, which is being built out to schedule, despite rumours contrary to that. It is on schedule to be opening in September. I can actually say that we are not considering the Liberal Democrat alternative of a bridge over the level crossing, which is totally unrealistic, but they're quite happy to put that in their literature. So that's the Station Link Road. The Eastern Relief Road, which is the University of Reading, south of the M4 main road. The university is now fully signed up for the forward funding, so that should be moving ahead fairly soon. If I now turn to Arborfield and the North Wokingham SDL, when we started talking about the road, we made a commitment, a very strong, solid commitment, that we would listen. We would do a consultation. We encouraged people to participate. We had over 1,300 responses, which is probably one of the highest response rates on any consultation in this area for a many, many long time. And guess what? We did listen, and we've actually chosen the route that the residents wanted, which was not the technical route. It's the option B in both cases. Now that's moving forward. On the executive on the 25th of March, there are 2 reports in there requesting the next step of the work to be done, which is to drill down into greater detail to move the line of the road from an indicative road through to a much more detailed road. And we will be fully engaging with residents, particularly the residents around the line of the road, to use their knowledge to avoid certain aspects there. The anticipation that it will be in summer of next year, paper will be brought to the executive to actually finalise the alignment, planning application in 2016, contractor in 2017 and completion 2019-20 for both of those roads. The consultation reports will be up on the website. They're probably 200 to 300 pages, but I know we have people who love digging into there. There's an awful lot of interesting information from the consultation. The last one that I would want to mention is the South Wokingham Distributor Road. Half of that is already completed, because that's at Montague Park, Buckhurst Farm as far as I know. Don't know why they changed it, but they did. The feasibility study for the other part of the road is just completing now. They're just doing the final touches to it. That will be brought to a forum in April. The executive will be expected to, we're asked to look at it in May. Finally, I would like to thank Anthony for the extra £500,000 for road maintenance. we always can find a way of spending it, and I'm sure after this meeting I'm going to be inundated by councillors with requests for their particular roads to be considered in that extra tranche. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. In my role as the Executive Member for Affordable Housing, I'm constantly looking for ways of getting the residents of Wokingham to enjoy the benefits of house ownership. And I'm happy to announce, as an alternative to our excellent range of affordable housing options that we currently offer to residents, we will be seeking to provide a range of self-build opportunities for people who currently would qualify for affordable housing, but who are looking to aspire to home ownership and are prepared to put more than money into fulfilling that dream. WBC will appoint and work with a number of experienced self-build providers who will help the borough to identify suitable candidates, locations for self-build projects. They will then be tasked with the management and overseeing and piloting of such schemes, delivering affordable homes with a difference. We will also be writing to residents on our housing list in addition to existing tenants currently living in traditional affordable council houses and registered providers, offering them the opportunity to be involved in the self-build programme. This will mean any tenant opts for a self-build, it will release the house they currently live in for other people on the housing list. We will also be working with towns and parishes, using their local knowledge, looking at their housing need in the area to identify suitable candidates for the programme in the local areas. WBC will also be able to help the programme with the provision of suitable land which we will supply as part of the negotiations with developers on our SDL sites. Our target will be to find suitable locations and explore the appetite for such a programme, which we believe will be substantial, within the community before the end of the summer, with a view of starting the first development early next year. Yet another excellent reason to live in Wokingham under a Conservative administration. Thank you, Mayor.
Pauline Jurgensen, you have 1 minute.
Well, in that case, I'll be very quick. I'd like to give you a quick update on Twyford Library following the statement that I made at the last full council meeting. I've had a very positive meeting with Twyford Parish Council to talk about their interest in joining the project and also the possibility of them providing some funding. They've referred that question to their Finance Committee. I'm still working very closely with Polehampton Charity, and as you can tell the amount of time I'm spending on this, I'm very determined that we actually get a library provided in Twyford after the long time that we've been working on it across various suggestions. Secondly, I'd just quickly like to cover the IT Northgate issues. You remember about 6 months ago we had quite a lot of issues with the Northgate contract. I just wanted to set the matter straight for anybody who might read the opposition literature in between the spec and the recycling bin, for which I suppose there are a few. I could just confirm that we're progressing the damages in the contract to the full extent of the contract, and that any stories to the contrary are completely untrue.
We are moving on to the questions. Councillor Rowland, please.
Thank you. I'd like to ask the Executive Member for Highways the following question. The government has announced an additional £140 million to help councils fix roads damaged by the wet winter. Could you explain your plans and timescales for using this money for pothole repairs across the borough, in addition to the bit you've already said? Thank you.
Thank you for your question. Officers have already submitted a claim under the new funding scheme, and we await the outcome of that process. Until we are aware of the success of that bid and the amount of funding available, it is extremely difficult to make any firm plans for how it will be used. However, in anticipation of receiving some funds, we have already identified a number of roads for treatment that are not currently in the 14-15 planned programme. And once we are aware of the level of any funds, we will prioritise those schemes for action. Clearly now, with the announcement tonight, we've got the extra £500,000 as well, and that will go into that process of prioritising the roads.
Yes, just quickly, Chairman, if I may. If you could let us know how much we get from the government when we know against what we bid for and which roads will be affected in that process, I'd be very grateful.
I wasn't going into the detail, but you've raised the sums. It is not the way that the fund is being managed. It's not the normal way. You don't bid on numbers. You don't bid for funds. You have to submit the length of the roads, the total aggregate length of roads that have been impacted. And that's all the government has asked for. So how they are going to work out outside of that, I don't know. But I will let the council know exactly what we get.
Thank you. Councillor Ferris, please.
Good evening. Yes, so my question on Optimus. What is the main issue of concern for Optimus at the moment?
Thank you for your question, Lindsay. I'll do my best to answer it without my voice going. I've got a cough and cold, which every lady knows present is terminal in the night. But with Optimus being an ambitious company and the pressure we are putting on ourselves to grow, the single biggest problem we've got is one of recruitment. To be able to recruit sufficient people to meet the market demand. So if anyone knows that is looking for a job in the social care field, we'd be pleased to hear from them. We fully support the national initiative to drive interest in social care as a profession through colleges and apprenticeships. And I'm pleased to be able to say that I recently signed the Youth and Social Care Charter on behalf of Optimus. We are an aspirational employer that delivers great quality care and values its employees. I am proud and privileged to be the company chairman.
Yes, I have a supplementary. I did let Bob in advance, and if part of the answer can be in writing because of the confidentiality, I don't mind. Supplementary, when do you anticipate Optimus getting their first external contract?
As you alluded to, Lindsay, I thank you for that supplementary, but I will reply to you in writing.
Councillor Thomas, please.
Thank you. How are you going to investigate water runoff and its impact on surface water flooding in the borough, and what is your timescale for reporting back?
Thank you for your question, Tom. The borough has a duty to investigate flooding incidents under the Flood and Water Management Act. And we published a policy document on this matter in February of last year, setting out our criteria for investigation. Following the winter flooding, we will be undertaking these investigations to determine the reasons for the flooding. Once we've undertaken this, we'll be looking at whether there are options for reducing the likelihood of flooding in the future. We hope to have the majority of these investigations completed by May of this year. May I also just add that we're keen to pursue and take action against landowners whose lack of action themselves has caused water runoff on the public roads, property, or affecting water courses.
Did you have a supplementary?
Thank you. As the borough's largest landowner, we have a duty to make sure that we set an example to other landowners. I'm pleased to hear that you're drafting a master plan. It's going to be a bit late for most people this year, but I would like to know when and how much the detailed implementation of that master plan, when will actually come to the public's. Thank you.
I can't give you an exact time because, as you can imagine, there was an enormous amount of material to collect and put together. We want to work in partnership with other agencies that we've already been working with since 2007, so we can move this forward and it will be part of the public agenda.
Thank you. We are now going to do number 5, and those who have any questions, will you please raise your hand and leave it there so I can take down the name.
congratulate Charlotte on the Family First programme, which is one of the few really innovative and effective programmes that's going on in this council. So well done to her for that, and having the staff in children's services and everybody else who's involved in it. Very short question for Keith. When are we going to get the new park and ride in Winnish?
There has been a slight delay in negotiations because, as you are aware, the whole site was sold to a new owner, and it would have been unreasonable to expect the new owner to pick up everything as it was laid out before. So we have had several meetings now with the new owners. They are very, very amenable for us to move this forward. It looks at the moment towards September, October timeframe, but I will have more information as we continue those discussions with the new owners.
Councillor Michael?
Thank you. The rescheduling of the A329M works due to start in the summer. How and when will you be briefing the wider community, including local members, towns and parish councils, local businesses, about what has happened? After all, we did say we would even be prepared to have a full council briefing, because quite frankly, we're not convinced that you've actually got this one right. And we've been very concerned that the same fiasco does not happen again.
Thank you for your question. The communication plan, which includes all the items you're talking about, is currently being finalised. And once that's been finalised, we will be informing the relevant stakeholders, which includes local councillors, of the plan.
Councillor Gilbert?
Thank you. Soon you will need to issue gas masks to anybody wanting to enjoy the beauty of the South Lake. When are you going to sort out this smelly problem without me having to constantly chase it up, please? Thank you.
Thank you for your question. Luckily it doesn't reach this far. The final report from the contractors that we have to try and find practical solutions to the silting will be with us. I think it's in the building now, I haven't seen it yet, so that's very imminent. We've also conducted environmental health checks on the area, and we're awaiting that report as well. So I can safely say imminently.
Thank you.
Councillor Shepherd-Bay, please.
Has the Environment Agency changed the flood zones for Winnish to include parts of Hatch Farm dairies, or will the new relief road Part 1 be high enough not to flood, or will it be designated possibly a part-time canal or another alternative location for the Bulmers swimming pool?
As you can imagine, both the EA and this council have been quite busy with dealing with the actual flooding and getting to terms with whether there will be any changes to the floodplains. We will be working with the EA on, and obviously they will inform in due course the planning process.
Councillor Ramundi, please.
Thank you. The residents have been complaining about the graffiti not being cleared up. Have you changed your policy about the clean-up?
This council, was it a year or 2 years ago, I think it was 2 years ago, did change its policy that we would only, at public expense, clear graffiti off public buildings and public land. We're very happy to advise anybody else who suffers from graffiti, and if it's reported, and we can help them.
Thank you very much. I now invite Councillor Grandison to present his motion.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to present the motion standing in my name. My motion this evening is a relatively simple one, to ask that this Council reaffirm its commitment to the Third Thames Bridge, an idea that has been in discussion on and off for nearly 100 years. During the floods, the B478 through Sonning was closed. The resulting closure of one of the busiest B routes in the country had wide-reaching effects on the borough of Wokingham and the greater region. I'm sure that we have all heard the tales from people that we know about their commutes to and from work and from businesses that have suffered as a result of the closure, let alone the other closures that were affected in the area as well due to the flooding. Since the closure, although it is now reopened thankfully, Rob Wilson MP for Reading East and John Howell, the MP for Henley, have been working closely on the idea of the Third Thames Bridge and have had several public and private meetings on this subject over the last 3 months. Indeed, having spoken to Rob Wilson, there was a successful meeting in Parliament earlier this month, and an early action plan has been developed to move the concept of the Third Thames Bridge forward with cooperation between Reading, Wokingham, Windsor and Maidenhead Borough Councils, Oxfordshire County Council, South Oxfordshire District Council, our local MPs, the Department for Transport, and perhaps last but not least, the Thames Valley Berkshire Local Enterprise Partnership. This motion affirms that this action plan will drive this forward. Our current infrastructure can no longer cope with demand that was not foreseen decades ago. But now we have the chance to improve our local economy by supporting this building of the Third Thames Bridge. This will bring and maintain jobs and businesses to our area, especially with the SDLs coming online and work in London, connecting Reading and Wokingham to the capital via Crossrail, but also the connection of Heathrow from Reading. But at the same time, we must be good neighbours and work together and listen to each other's concerns. Let's work together on a project that satisfies everyone. I hope that this motion will be supported by the Council and that we can continue to do good work on bringing a third bridge across the Thames from an idea to reality. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Do you have a second, please? Mr. Baker, do you wish to speak now?
I'd like to reserve the right, please.
Thank you. Anybody else like to speak on this?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I've only got 4 brief points to make about it. At February's council meeting, I mentioned my regret that the council had not been able to keep the reference to the Third Thames Bridge in the managing development delivery part of the local plan. And I said that this issue had already dragged on too long. I didn't realise it was 100 years. How gratifying to find this motion on the agenda. And that means that 2 of the 3 Conservative motions tonight appear to have arisen directly from points made by Liberal Democrats last night. After many years of South Oxfordshire persistently obstructing progress, I do hope their experiences in the recent flooding, which closed Sonning Bridge and so badly damaged the road, have shown councils on the other side of the river that they need another crossing to provide resilience and prevent misery for thousands of local people whose daily journeys have been prolonged sometimes by hours while Sonning Crossing has been unavailable. The third point is that people do have concerns about additional traffic, but really it's more about redistribution of traffic. I don't think that there are hordes of people on the banks of the river saying they would love to go north of the Thames one day before they die if only there was a bridge available. They queue to use the bridges that do exist. An extra bridge would not just improve journey times by reducing queuing, it would also improve life for the people in the areas around the existing bridges. And of course, we should work to minimise the impact on local roads from a new bridge, but the positives with regard to traffic and congestion outweigh the negatives. And my fourth and final point is that I do note the motion mentions 2 MPs by name. And what a shame that neither of them is Wokingham MP John Redwood, who doesn't seem to have had anything to say on this issue, which affects so many of his constituents. So to finish where I started, let's hope he follows the example of the Conservatives with this motion. Now a Lib Dem has mentioned his relative silence, he decides to do something about the issue.
Councillor Tottle, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This going to be an interesting episode, I think, tonight between the two parties. It's a variation, I think, on the 100 Years' War. Certainly that seems to be the case between South Oxfordshire and Berkshire. If you live in Caversham or Evergreen, which is actually part of Reading, but north of the river, you've got no choice than to queue through the town to get to the M4. Even if you live in Sonning Early or North Woodley, you know what it's like. You get all the traffic and all the traffic jams. I suspect we can all agree that a new bridge is essential. Some 45 years ago, I took up a post as a surveyor with Berkshire County Council, a very junior post, I hasten to add, but in the then road planning department. Guess what was occupying their minds at the time? Well, it was a new road called the M4. Should it be north? Should it be south of Reading or into South Oxfordshire? Guess who won, or was it who lost? To connect Eastern Reading to the new M4, a route was required. Well, the decision was made to demolish over 100 houses in Early and Woodley to build a link road we call the A329M. There was no government funding for this road. It was paid for by Berkshire County Council, and Woodley and Early residents gave up their homes. They thought for the benefit of everybody. Well, what did it link to? Well, Reading were trying to play their part. They built the IDR. We all know that that's never really been fully successful. But the major problem has been the traffic congestion that would get through Reading, and that is what's killed it virtually. The experts' preferred route for the end of for the new third bridge was at the end of the A329M. That was as it was planned 50 years ago. That route is still open. The options are still there. I think what we should be doing, and we seem to be agreeing to tonight, is to put all of our support behind what the MPs are trying to do, behind our own councils. And what I heard tonight was most interesting. We're actually getting to talk to the MP for Henley. We're talking to South Oxfordshire and Oxfordshire County Council. And this is the most encouraging bit of information I've heard on this third bridge. I urge you all to support the motion. It's been Early Town Council's policy as long as I've been on that council, and that's an awfully long time, not quite 50 years.
Councillor Mike Haynes, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I too would like to speak in support of this motion, and particularly on behalf of my ward residents in Sonning, and bring forward a couple of issues. Firstly, my residents have had to endure daily traffic congestion for a very long time, with upwards of 7,000 vehicular movements through the village in peak times. On occasions, the queues go back to the A4 on our side of the Thames and to the Caversham Road on the South Oxfordshire side. It has been said that this may be the busiest B road in the country, and Sonning village itself often approaches gridlock at peak times. It is worth noting that the centre of Sonning is a conservation area with both Grade 1 and several Grade 2 listed buildings. This is a special area, but at times it is blighted by traffic, and I do have concerns about the impact of vehicular pollution. It becomes very difficult and time-consuming for my residents to get cars off their drives and out of the village at peak times. Irrespective of where they're travelling to, my residents often need to build or change their lifestyles around the prevailing traffic conditions, which I think is unacceptable. Secondly, my concern involves local businesses. I took to walking over the bridge during the recent floods, and the water beneath it was an absolute torrent. And in fact, as has been mentioned, the actual problem was a little further down the road into South Oxfordshire, but the effect was the same. The water pressure on the structure must have been immense. There are a number of businesses in Sonning, or closely adjacent in South Oxfordshire, and these employ a goodly number of local people. It has been reported that during the recent road closures, business takings fell by at least 15% in the area, despite strenuous efforts and support by our MP Theresa May, myself, Radio Berkshire and others, to advise that Sonning was and is open for business. Clearly this isn't acceptable, and it will be very difficult for local traders to make up for this lost custom over the remainder of the year. For these reasons, I'm speaking on behalf of all my ward residents in Sonning. I strongly urge this council to support this motion. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Jones, please.
Thank you. Madam Mayor, my fellow members, third Thames Bridge has been discussed, has been mentioned for the past 100 years, which I wasn't aware of. All we have so far is just mere talk, but no action. Meanwhile, problems continue to mount. These problems were further made worse when Sonic Bridge was closed due to the recent flooding, and this caused huge commuter traffic jam and general frustration in the local area. Living in the local vicinity, I can bear witness to the fact that the journey, which normally takes 5 minutes, was taking 45 minutes to 1 hour. Madam Mayor, we as residents and members of the Woking Council take pride in the fact that the headquarters of some of the global companies are located in Woking, providing employment to thousands of our residents and generating millions in taxes. Woking Borough is in the heart of the UK's Silicon Valley and is one of the top areas to live in the country, and in every survey has scored high in education provision, living standards and employment. Well, these very companies are demanding a third Thames Bridge to be built. Why? Because one of the key criteria for the investment in the local is the local infrastructure. That is roads, transport links and the airport. That is a major consideration for any global company for investment. That is why we need the third runway, Heathrow runway, at Heathrow Airport, and building of the bridge is a key component of expanding our local road network. The amount of traffic that flows through parts of Woking Borough and Reading each day is enormous, and when problems arise, not only does it create economic problems when delivery lorries cannot get to the area where they need to get to in time, but also causes frustration to those who live in the local area as well. If a third bridge was built, it would dramatically ease congestion and have a positive economic impact, with local business being able to receive their deliveries on time, people be able to go to work on time, reduction on business loss and environmental damage that results as thousands of cars stand still in the traffic jam for hours. Just think of the opportunity cost there. The proposed bridge is expected to cost between 80 million and 100 million pounds. That is the proposal for a crossing between A329 and Caversham. Yet that would cut the traffic almost by a quarter. Third, Thames Bridge building it is a no-brainer. Everybody knows there has to be a third river crossing. This area has expanded enormously over the last 30 years. In fact, according to the Financial Times, this area has seen the fastest expansion in the last 30 years, not only in the UK, but the whole of Europe. We need this third Thames Bridge now, and we need it now. The residents want to see more action and less talk. With further house buildings and company expansions, this traffic problem is likely to get worse. Madam Mayor, this issue is beyond politics. I commend the Chamber to support this motion and support the efforts being made by both Members of Parliament, Rob Wilson and John Howell. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just wanted to add a bit of information to this debate. I was on the Third Thames Crossing group before I was a borough councillor as an early town councillor rep, where we went around talking to a lot of the parish and borough councils and county councils in Oxfordshire about the proposals. The issue at that time was that South Oxfordshire were vehemently opposed to a third bridge, and we looked at several different routes. I hope that the changes to the recent issue in the Sonning Bridge has meant that maybe some of South Oxfordshire will reconsider their view and might actually feel that there is some benefit to their residents of this bridge as well. Finally, I'd just like to correct something that Prue said. I just had a quick look at John Redwood's blog, and on the 5th of February this year, the latest comment, he actually expressed his support for the third Thames Bridge and said that all the Berkshire MPs were in favour of it. So I just thought I'd correct that.
Yes, Madam Mayor. I too would like to correct Councillor Bray. As usual, the Liberal Democrats always try to take the credit for things that they haven't actually deserved it. I will remind her that over 5 years ago, I brought to this council participation in the Reading TIF bid. Germane to that TIF bid was, right in the middle of it, a third Thames Bridge for 65 million. So it wasn't just your drive to make all this happening. So, and also I did bring a motion to this council as well. Just a couple of things I'd like to just share with you, because as you imagine, I've been heavily involved in all the meetings related to this. We had a very interesting one up at Emma Green School, where people well attended. We had some interesting ideas, like moving the boundary, that South Oxfordshire actually took in the East Reading, so therefore they can have the problem. We had another interesting suggestion that we built a series of tunnels with a tunnel hub underneath the Thames with about 6 feeder tunnels. He wasn't Dutch at the time, but he obviously liked the country. More importantly though, the meeting that the two MPs pulled together, which frankly was probably the most important meeting on this subject, that certainly since I've been involved with it, was very, very good. Oxfordshire County Council actually conceded that they would provide their modelling information to go into the Reading transport model, so that we can actually see what the impact of the bridge would be. We're comfortable on our side, Reading, Woking, etc., that there is that impact. They're not so comfortable, so that is a major move from Oxford County Council view, and there was a definite determination on behalf of the two MPs that this will be resolved. And I came away from that meeting with a feeling that this is probably the closest we've ever been to actually getting the third Thames Bridge. Thank you.
Councillor Gramson, do you wish to say anything?
Just quickly to sum up, I'd like to thank everyone for their contributions, and hopefully this will be received to the Council's unanimous support. Thank you.
All those in favour of the motion, please show. Motion is carried. I now call on Councillor Cowan to move the motion 354.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The recent flooding event and all the media coverage about the impact this has had on the lives, people's lives, really is a wake-up call, which this council, as this council, we need to respond to. When a flooding event occurs, there are substantial financial and business costs due to roads being closed and access around the road being severely affected. It is not all about finance, as well as the absolute economic cost of flooding can be calculated. Human stress and suffering cannot. Living at risk of flooding is certainly stressful, but suffering internal flooding must be devastating. Fortunately, Woking did not suffer as much as other parts of the country, but it is vitally important that we learn from this recent event. And for example, why did we see flooding in parts of the borough which has never flooded before? For these reasons, this motion requests that we immediately set up a flood review task force consisting of officers, members, other agencies and residents groups to proactively examine all aspects of existing policy, both local and national. It should ensure that all council policies are up to date, fit for purpose, using a catchment-based approach that includes subterranean flows and, when necessary, take appropriate action to reduce the impact of any future flooding on Woking Borough. The task force will need to find ways to address the symptoms of flooding as well as the causes. And I would suggest that the following need to be considered as part of the remit. When the pressure to build houses, or with the pressure to build houses, it's crucial that the review looks at the entire planning process to make it more robust in addressing flood risk, including flood risk at the outline planning stage and not really later at the conditions stage. It should also look at the current and future investment in flood defences and flood mitigation, and they should look at the opportunities for EU government and agency grants to help with flooding problems while that development is not permitted in areas prone to flooding. At the same time, it should look at opportunities to create more flood storage to help mitigate both flooding and subsequent droughts. Residents should not have to go through this time and time again, And I believe that setting up a flood review group will be the very first step towards achieving this. And I would ask members to support this motion. Thank you.
Do you wish to speak now, Mr. Aguilar?
I reserve my right for later on, thank you.
Thank you. Who else would like to speak on this? Right. Councillor McCann, please.
Thank you. This council has failed the communities around the borough in Hurst, Twyford, Woodley, Earley, Shinfield, Arborfield. I could add more to the list, but really what we should be saying is you've failed them because you've failed to prevent what was a reasonably predictable set of scenarios. You have known of key Act flood risk areas, like the cinema, and you've failed to do anything about it. A lot of these flooded areas were well known, well in advance. I will accept that this year flooding was far worse than a normal amount of rain, but you have not fixed the roof while the sun was shining, and you have failed all of us. As I have said already, this council is the largest landowner in the borough. It has a responsibility to the whole of the borough to control and manage its rainwater runoff from its past ponds, lakes and rivers. You have failed to slow down rainwater runoff, empty ditches, clear culverts. This failure has only added to the problems flooding has already caused. The problem is, I don't believe that you've learned anything, nor will you change anything unless we keep pushing you. This motion is a sham unless you're ready to start fixing some of the known problems around the borough. I will vote in favour of this motion, but I have very little confidence that you will achieve anything, and we will be back here next year or the year